Hi, everyone, and welcome to Murder and Merlot.
We are a true crime book club podcast.
I'm your host, Tara.
And I'm your host, Michelle.
How's it going, Michelle?
It's going pretty good, besides this little lag that we have in our internet connection.
Yeah, we're having some serious Zoom lag at the moment, so we might sound a little bit off.
But you are an expert editor, so I'm sure you can fix us later as well. Yay, extra work.
I will do my best. It's all good. What's another hour when you're editing for 13? Right?
Right? It's nothing. It's fine.
It's fine. Well, we have another great case inspired by Mindhunter for today. Rather than covering the case of a serial killer like our last main episode on David Carpenter, this time we will be focusing on a single homicide. Today we will be discussing the bizarre murder of Karla Brown. And it's a good one. It's not very well known, though.
It's so good.
Yeah. I hadn't heard about it before the book, so I'm really excited to tell everybody about it. But first, we are going to chit-chat just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a tiny bit. We'll try to get through it quickly because we've got a lot to get through.
We got some talking to do.
Lots of talking. Mostly me. I got the most talking to do here.
I don't think I have any current events from cases that we've talked about. Do you, Tara?
I don't. I just wanted to touch on some feedback from our previous episode, though, because I really liked that episode. Just saying. I thought it was really fun because talking about a serial killer.
Yeah, loved it.
Yeah.
Loved it. Most of my people that I talk to on a regular basis are behind on the podcast, so you guys need to hurry up.
No kidding.
Give me some feedback, please.
Right? The feedback I got was that it was really good and it was really creepy. So, I mean, can't go wrong with those responses. It's kind of what I'm going for.
Perfect. That's awesome.
It's kind of my goal, which is a little weird, but I like it.
Right? Really cool. Really creepy.
Yep. Perfect. Sums us up perfectly.
Cool and creepy.
Yeah. Maybe not so cool sometimes, but I like to think we are.
Yeah. Yeah. We're cool to each other, I guess.
That's all that matters. And on our last episode, our fluff and stuff question was great. So many responses.
So many responses. Way to go, guys.
Yeah.
I was just so happy reading everybody's responses.
Oh, it was so exciting. Our question was, who is your favorite serial killer?
I had people posting on my personal page because I'd shared our post and
loved it.
Awesome.
I just feel like it gives you insight into people that I wouldn't have known before.
I know.
Not sure exactly what it means all the time, but I'm like, oh, that's fascinating.
I know. Very cool. And I probably spent 10 having my cousin purge her closet and organize it. And so then we're talking about it. And so we had some really really good discussions about, is Ramirez her favorite or whoever. Hers was John Wayne Gacy as her favorite.
Classic.
Yeah.
I was telling my friend about Ed Kemper. I was giving her a really detailed, this is all the fucked up things he did. But we are going through a Starbucks drive-through, so I had to keep pausing. I shouldn't say anything right now because, they probably don't want to hear about that while they're working. They'd be like, what the
Probably
fuck?
not.
Probably make some people question me. So yeah, but that was fun. I really loved talking about that.
Yeah, super interesting.
Yeah. On Instagram, our favorite responses. First one is from Demara Montgomery, and she said, I love the shock factor of Ed Gein, even though he didn't really kill too many people.
Great answer.
Yes.
Loved it.
I like that answer because I had the same thought. I almost picked Ed Gein, but then I'm like, technically he's not a serial killer, and I will get in a lot of shit for picking him, but he's fascinating. Oh my God.
So screwed up.
It's more of a grave digger and seamstress, but I love it.
Seamster?
Seamster? I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what it's called.
What is whatever the male equivalent of seamstress is?
I mean, his goal was to make a woman's suit. So I feel like he wouldn't mind being called a seamstress.
Maybe, yeah, probably.
But
probably.
I can't ask him for his preference, so I don't know.
We can't speak on Mr. Gein's behalf.
No, and we shouldn't.
And we don't want to, really.
No, not really.
No.
But he's a pretty interesting dude.
Very cool. And XS Podcast said, is it messed up that I say Dahmer? Straight up, I would have been an easy target for him. So handsome when he was younger, but my saving grace? He didn't like men with tattoos, of which I have many. So few. And that's the Xander and Stone podcast.
Yes. And they seem like very cool people. I creep them a little bit, and I am so jealous of Xander's voice. He's got the loveliest voice and accent ever. So yeah.
Is it one of those voices that you can just listen to and just melt?
Yes, absolutely. And then I became very jealous, and then I'm like, why can't my voice sound nice? So, everything's a competition, and I don't like when people are better than me.
Well, we just have our fun Canadian accents, so we just got to roll with that.
Maybe somebody feels the same way about our Canadian accents.
I don't know. I think we're pretty soothing. I've started baking to us, so
yes,
meditation while baking.
If our voices soothe you, please let us know. It will make my day.
Yeah, please. Awesome. Well, are we ready?
I think we're ready.
I think I'm ready. Yep, wine glass in hand. All
right,
friends, grab your glass and get cozy. Let's talk about murder.
Dink.
And yes, I did say grab your grass at first, so.
Yeah, I noticed that. How many glasses of wine have you had?
This is number 3.
I'm also on drink number 3, so this is going to be a great episode.
So yeah, grab your grass. First out of context quote right there.
Got it. I love it.
Oh my goodness.
I don't know. I think I like that we don't speak on behalf of Mr. Gein or whatever that was. I think that will make it too.
I'm pretty sure that's going to make the cut. Awesome.
Love it.
Oh, amazing.
So, like I mentioned at the top of the show, my story today is one of the many cases mentioned in the book Mindhunter by John Douglas and Mark Olshaker. I know I said this last time, but I'm going to say it again. If you have not read the book, that is fine. You don't have to read the book in order to listen to the podcast. Although, if you have read the book, please let us know your thoughts. We would love for our book club episodes to be much more interactive with our audience. And Michelle, do you want to tell the people how they can get involved and be a part of the show?
Absolutely. We have our main book club questions posted on the website under the tab called Questions, and you can also find them on our Instagram highlights. If you have any responses to those questions or just thoughts on the book in general, email us at murderedmerlot@gmail.com, and our website is murderedmerlot.podbean.com.
Yeah, be like Scott Hemingway from Dark Poutine and tell us your thoughts on Mindhunter. If Scott can spare a moment to talk to us, then you can too.
Oh my God. That was the best freaking day. I swear to God.
It was pretty freaking cool.
Okay. So Scott Hemingway, former co-host of Dark Poutine, commented on our Instagram post about Mindhunter about how it was his favorite book. And then we got into this big chat about it, and he told me that I could, talk about his responses on our show. And then I fangirled at him, publicly fangirled at him on Instagram, and he actually said the word "squee" to me. So,
which was so
which absolutely made my day. And he's just such a cool person to talk to, and I can't wait to tell you more about his responses when we talk about our book club episodes. So.
Yes, which will be our next episode. So we're looking forward to that. And if you want to tell us about Mindhunter, then make sure to send in your responses before next Sunday, please and thank you.
Yes, that would be amazing.
That would be great.
Okay. Yes. Oh my God.
Yes. I know. I even wrote on our script, cue Michelle fangirling over Scott. because I knew it'd happen.
Yeah, you didn't have to write that. You knew it. Yeah, it was going to happen.
It was
It's
coming.
happened a lot since. Yeah. I'll just replay it in my head and I'm like, oh my God.
Like, we talked to those people. That's, yeah. I was asked about our podcast the other day. Sorry for another sidebar, but they asked what my favorite part of it was. And I was like, probably talking to all the cool people that we have talked to, like other podcast hosts, like Scott and Elena from Morbid. And I talked to David Thibodeau, an actual Waco survivor. We messaged Greg Olson. Like, it's so cool. It's honestly the coolest thing ever that we are actually interacting with these people. And Billy Jensen as well on Instagram.
I was going to say, don't forget Billy. Don't forget Billy.
I almost, but I brought it back around. We got Billy.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyways, little sidebar, but it's so freaking cool, guys. Love it.
So cool.
Okay. Without further ado, let's jump into it. This is the case of Karla Brown's murder, inspired by Chapter 14, Who Killed the All-American Girl? Karla Brown was born in Lima, Ohio on February 28, 1956. As she grew older, she was becoming a beautiful young woman with a bright future and a smile that could light up a room. And I'm sure we've all watched enough true crime documentaries to know what that line means. It's not going to go so well. She was considered to be the all-American girl as she had wavy blonde hair, was less than 5 feet tall, and had a great figure. Which I feel weird for saying, but apparently it's important as it was brought up in like every source for this case. Is it though? Is it important? Kind of just feels creepy.
Right? Like, women are beautiful no matter what their shapes. Sorry.
Exactly. We get it. She was beautiful. You don't have to talk
all-American standards.
Right. We don't have to talk about her body, but okay. Anyways. At Roxana High School, she was remembered as a popular and peppy cheerleader. Her close friends also knew the sensitive and introverted side of her as well. Karla was devoted to her boyfriend, Mark Fair, who is described as strong, athletically built, and over a foot taller than his girlfriend. They truly made a great couple. Once out of high school, Mark became an electrician and Karla went to college. After 5 years of dating, they got engaged and bought a house together in Wood River, Illinois. It was a single-story, white, wooden-sided house on a tree-lined street. They spent about 2 weeks working on their new place at 979 Acton Avenue to make it move-in ready. On Tuesday, June 20th, 1978, Karla and Mark threw a party for all of their friends that had helped them with the move. After the party, later that night, they returned to their apartment to finish packing. They were hoping to officially move in the next day and spend their first night in their new home.
It just sounds so, like...
perfect.
Storybook.
Yeah.
Right? Like...
as it should have been.
Tree-lined street, you know, like...
engaged, a new house. Like, that's supposed to be the best years of your life, you know?
Totally.
But it didn't quite work out that way, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yeah. Hence pretty sad.
On Wednesday morning, Mark left for work and Karla went back to Acton Avenue so she could work on unpacking and organizing. Later that day, Mark got off work around 4:30 and headed over to a friend's house, whose name was Tom Feigenbaum. Tom lived on the same block as Mark's parents and had agreed to help Mark move a large doghouse from his parents' backyard. The two men arrived at Acton Avenue at about 5:30. While Tom was backing his truck into the driveway, Mark went into the house to get Karla. When he couldn't find her, he wasn't overly concerned, as she had likely just ran out to pick something up for the house. He did notice, however, that she had left the back door unlocked, which led to the basement, and that was a bit strange. He made a mental note to remind her to be more careful about that in the future.
Dun, dun, dun.
Mark carried on and eventually brought his friend inside to give him a tour of the new place. First, they looked at the main floor, then the kitchen, then they proceeded to the basement. Right away, they knew something was off. Small tables were overturned, something was spilt on the couch. It was just a mess, even though Karla had been organizing the space the night before. Mark turned to go back upstairs to look for Karla, but something in the laundry room caught his eye. What he saw was horrifying. Not only did he see his fiancée's lifeless body in the room, but it was displayed in a way that was truly disturbing. Karla was on her knees and bent forward, with her head and shoulders submerged in a barrel of water. Her hands were tied behind her back with an electrical cord, and 2 socks were tied around her neck. She was naked from the waist down, wearing only a buttoned-up, heavy sweater. Mark screamed and rushed over, pulling her head from the water. He laid her down on her back and noticed a deep gash across her forehead, another on her jaw, and a cut on her nose. Her face was blue and puffy, her eyes were open, but it was obvious that she was dead.
Ugh, my heart.
Horrible.
Poor guy. My heart went out to him.
Absolutely. He was completely heartbroken and distraught. I can't even imagine. Mark collapsed. He was in complete agony. He asked Tom to cover her body. His friend found a red blanket and laid it over top of her. Then they phoned the police. Arriving only a few minutes later was Officer David George of the Wood River Police Department. Mark and Tom were waiting outside the front door when the officer pulled up, and they led him to the basement. During this time, Mark was hardly able to contain himself, and rightfully so. Shortly thereafter, more officers showed up to secure and inspect the area. This included Illinois State Police Inspector Alva Bush, who was an experienced crime scene technician. Right away, there were a few setbacks with the investigation. First off, Alva was unable to get the flash attachment to work on his camera. Another officer had brought along a camera as well, so they used that for the crime scene photos instead. However, the camera only had black and white film. Another setback was that since the couple had just had a party the night before, there were many different fresh fingerprints around the house. They had to analyze each of them in order to find out if they belonged to a person who had been in the house legitimately or if they belonged to the killer. As mentioned before, the house was a mess, and the investigators had to determine what was out of place and where each item had originally come from. Fortunately, since the couple was just moving in, Mark had a good idea of where everything had been prior to the attack. For one thing, the sweater that Karla was found wearing was certainly out of place. It had been packed in one of the barrels, and Mark knew that she had not been wearing it earlier that day. As well, she only wore it for special occasions during the winter. And again, this was in June. Another interesting detail about the sweater is that it was buttoned all the way up. During such a violent attack, there was no doubt that the buttons would have been ripped off or open. This meant that the killer had partially dressed the victim once she was already dead. More clothes that were previously packed up had been scattered all around the basement floor. Around her neck were a pair of men's socks tied tightly together. Under the ligature, Karla's neck was bruised quite badly. The socks had been kept in an upstairs bedroom dresser. The extension cord that bound her hands behind her back had the ends cut off, and it had been packed in a box in the basement prior to the attack. So it's just crazy that it's like all these items are from all over the house.
All over the house, I know.
Right? It's very strange.
You have to go upstairs to get the socks to strangle her with? Like, how long were you in the house with her?
Yeah, exactly. One of the first things that Mark noticed when he went into the basement earlier that day was that something had been spilled on the couch. It was actually covered in blood, and the cushions were soaked with water. A stand of TV trays were overturned, and blood was also found splattered on the floor. It appeared that this is where the attack and the blunt force trauma to the head had taken place. Investigators then noticed something strange in the rafters of the laundry room. It was a coffee pot from the coffee maker the couple kept in the kitchen. Alva was able to lift a few latent fingerprints from the glass, but unfortunately, they were too incomplete to be useful. So strange.
Oh, weird.
Right?
So weird.
The autopsy was performed on June 22nd by pathologist Dr. Harry Parks. He observed 2 large lacerations on the face and a fracture of the jaw at the tip of the chin, though he could not palpate any further fractures to the skull. He also noted several bruises, including the severe ones around the throat. This was consistent with strangulation, which he determined to be the cause of death. He estimated that the murder occurred about 6 hours before the body had been found, around 5:45 p.m. This could vary as much as 2 or 3 hours, he clarified. He found no evidence of water in the lungs, therefore he determined that the victim had not been breathing when her head was submerged in the water. At this point, investigators needed to establish the events that took place on and before June 21st, leading up to the murder. They reached out to anyone in the neighborhood that may have seen anything and searched for any friends or family that may have had contact with Karla just prior to her death. They started with the neighbor, Paul Main, as he had seen the couple and their friends next door when they were having their party. He had been home the day of the murder as well. With him was his friend John Pranty, who had actually known Karla from high school. The 2 men, plus another friend, had been outside as the new neighbors were moving in. They had all hoped to join the party next door, but they never received an invite. One of the couple's friends, Bob Lewis, recalled one of the men calling to Karla from across the driveway. He knew her by name, and Bob heard Karla say, "You've got a great memory. It's been a long time." He described Paul Main's friend as a rough-looking, long-haired guy, which of course would have been John Prantty. This encounter was a bit unsettling to Bob, so he let Mark know and suggested that he should be careful of these neighbors until they got to know them a bit better. Mark was not too concerned at the time, as he was aware that Karla had known the man from high school and that he was just visiting. As mentioned previously, Paul Main had been home on the day of the murder that took place right next door. He remembered being on the front porch for most of the afternoon, and again, he was accompanied by his friend John. John recalled being at his friend's house briefly that morning after applying for a job at a local oil refinery, but then he left early to apply for other jobs. Also on the day of the murder, Karla had spoken to a few people on the phone. At about 9:30, she had called a friend Jamie, and all had seemed fine. Later on, Jamie tried calling back at about 2:30, but received no answer. At about 10 a.m., Karla had made another phone call, this time to a friend named Deborah. Shortly after the call, Deborah had left to visit Karla at her house. When she arrived at 979 Acton Avenue at about 11 a.m., no one answered the door, even though Karla's vehicle was parked outside. She continued trying to reach her friend on the phone throughout the rest of the day, but again received no answer. Karla had made another call earlier that morning at about 9 a.m. to Helen Fair, which was Mark's mother. She didn't reach her at that time, but Helen returned her call somewhere between 10 and 11 a.m. The conversation was interrupted by Karla when she said, "Helen, someone is at the door. I'll call you back." The future mother-in-law never heard back from Karla, and her phone calls later that day were not answered.
Oh, that just gives you the willies, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that was probably the last friendly person she talked to.
Yeah.
Was her mother-in-law, and I'll call you right back. How many times have we done that?
Exactly. But then never receiving a call. Ugh.
I mean, nobody comes over anymore because of stupid COVID. So,
right.
It's less likely to happen.
True. I guess it would be a real red flag then. What? What is somebody doing at your house?
Yeah, you better stay on the line.
Yeah. They're not supposed to be there. A woman was driving down the street with her grandson, and they were looking for the dentist office. Once they realized they were headed in the wrong direction, they used Karla's driveway to turn around at about 10:45 a.m. Both occupants in the vehicle remembered seeing a woman, matching the description of the victim, talking to a man in the driveway. The witness remembered that the woman had started walking back towards the house, but they were unable to give a good description of the man, even under hypnosis. In the search for suspects, the police questioned many of Karla's friends in order to find out if she was having issues with anyone. They all said that Karla was very well liked and had no enemies that they were aware of. A former roommate of the victim, however, did have someone in mind. Karla was quite young when her father passed away, and since then her mother had married another man named Joe Shepard Sr. At this point, the couple is now divorced, but the roommate reported that Karla did not get along with her former stepfather. He was always trying to come on to her friends and had even hit Karla in the past. Shepard had inserted himself into the investigation as the night of the murder, he barraged the police with questions. This is something we know killers will do sometimes. He was obviously considered as a suspect, but they were unable to find any evidence that linked him to the crime. Of course, the next suspects considered were Karla's fiancé, Mark Fair, and his friend Tom Feigenbaum. Always have to investigate the spouse and those that discover the body. That's
every single time.
Lesson
rule number 1.
Yep. Lesson 101 of my true crime course.
Right? If you don't investigate the spouse, you're doing your job wrong.
Absolutely. I'm such a meatball. I actually wrote, that's lesson 1 in my true crime course. Sign up today and you'll receive some knowledge and maybe a sticker. I'm definitely losing my mind at this point of writing.
And hey, don't forget we have a review giveaway. Write us a review. We'll send you a sticker.
True. And you'll get a sticker. It's all connected. For real, though, until the end of December, give us a review. We'll send you some swag.
Yep. All the details are on our Facebook and our Instagram posts.
Yeah.
Anyways.
We're professionals. We're so good at this.
And back to the story.
Back to the suspects. Mark was the one that found the body. He had access to the house, and he was the closest person to the victim. But he did have a solid alibi as he was at work when the murder took place, and he had seen and spoke to many people that day. There was no question in anyone's mind that Mark's grief was genuine and profound. As the investigation went on, they decided to polygraph all the potential suspects and those that had recent contact with Karla before her death. This included Mark, Tom, the stepfather Joe Shepard, and the neighbors. I'm sorry, do you read that? It's supposed to say Paul Maine, and I wrote Pain Maine. And it just
that's his rapper name.
It just got me right in the giggle dick, I guess.
we should drink heavily before we record all the time.
It's pretty fun.
We haven't had the giggles this much since like our first recording.
Well, I think there's been a few, but yeah.
Excellent.
Oh my God. Okay. Yes. So Paul Maine and John Pranty were also polygraphed. The first three passed without any issues. No one had really failed, actually, though Paul's results were a bit more off than the rest. He had been home the day of the murder and claimed that his friend John had been with him on his porch and hadn't left. Pranty, on the other hand, said that he had left in order to apply for some jobs and therefore could not confirm where Paul had been during that time. Since Paul's results were questionable, he remained a suspect, although, just like the rest, there had been no evidence that actually tied him to the crime. Although the police worked hard to find Karla's killer, 2 years went by and they were still not any closer. The quiet community was still deeply affected by the horrible crimes, and so were the authorities, some more than others. Don Weber, state attorney, was one of those that couldn't let the case rest. He needed to show the public that this would not be tolerated in his district and reactivated the case in 1980. Another individual obsessed over the case was crime scene investigator Alva Bush. He was in Albuquerque, New Mexico, when he saw an opportunity to push the case forward. He attended a presentation at the Sheriff's Department given by Dr. Homer Campbell, who was an expert from the University of Arizona in the computer enhancement of photographs. After the presentation, Alva approached Dr. Campbell and said, "Hey, Doc, have I got a case for you?" He agreed to have a look at the crime scene and autopsy photos with the goal of determining the exact weapon that had been used on the victim.
When I was reading this and I got to this part, I was shocked when I learned that Alva was a dude.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I totally had this picture of like this like classy, like put together lady, because Alva seems like such a like put together lady name. I don't know. I'm sorry. No. Investigator Bush. I'm sorry. But
I'm sorry too. I was a little disappointed because I had this picture of this badass woman and like
right, and she's like, I am not letting this go. But no, it's this dude.
It's a dude.
Thank you for not letting it go. You are still a hero of the case, but not how I pictured you in your pencil skirt and heels.
I mean, that's your prerogative. That's fine, but just I guess not what we had in mind.
It's so funny how your brain just creates these pictures, and then when you learn something else, you're like, oh, well,
I know.
Your outfit doesn't work anymore.
I know, but then I'm so stubborn. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Even though I don't know this person, but no, you're wrong.
Fine, Alva. Wear pants.
Fine, then. You do you. Even though the photos were in black and white, he was still able to analyze them thoroughly. He determined that the deep gashes on Karla's face were made by a claw hammer, and that the injuries to the chin and forehead had been made by the wheels of the overturned TV tray table. Like, what? How? How do you do that? I don't understand. That's so cool.
I know, and just like the description of the injuries, I'm like, cringing the whole time. Like,
oh yeah. No, totally. That would be absolutely awful. I just think it's cool that they could determine that, not that actually happened, because that's the worst.
I know.
Yeah, that isn't even the craziest part. The next thing he said to Alva changed the investigation completely. What about the bite marks? He asked. Do you guys have any suspects in the bite marks on her neck? What bite marks? Alva replied. No one had previously noticed the bite marks, even on the autopsy. Dr. Campbell was confident that if they had found the suspect, they could get a good comparison with the images he raised. Currently, bite mark analysis is controversial, and some consider it junk science, but we will come back to that later on. At the time of the investigation, however, this was a breakthrough. It was their first piece of solid evidence, and as far as they were concerned, it was practically the same as a fingerprint. Which sounds very exciting, but it really isn't. It really isn't like a fingerprint.
Yeah.
But that's okay. That's okay. We'll come back to it.
Yes. I could make a comment here, but I'm sure you'll talk about that later, what I'm going to comment about.
I know what you're going to say, and I did not include that in my story, but we can certainly mention it later.
Okay.
Okay. Because I know you. Same brain, same brain.
Yes, I know.
But it's your responsibility to remember now. Because now I will forget because I said
it's on me.
Okay.
Don't worry.
With this new vigor brought into the case, the police started going back through their original suspects. They were particularly interested in Paul Main. Dr. Campbell, however, was not able to match his bite sample to the autopsy photographs. An attempt was made to locate Paul's friend John Pranty, but they were not able to do so at this time. So they just gave up? I don't know.
I don't know.
Sorry, that was rude.
I mean, if those are their two main suspects, then they're not going to be making everybody who ever had contact with them do bite imprints. So
no, that's true. That's true. Even with this new piece of evidence, the investigation again began to slow. Officers started to look for other resources to aid them, such as bringing in a psychic. Not surprisingly, though, this did little to help them.
Shocking.
I know. It always works out so well.
It always floors me when they actually include them in their investigation, though, and they're like, maybe you're onto something.
In so many cases in this era, psychics were called upon before the FBI. That makes total sense.
I know.
So strange.
Weird.
Hindsight is 2020, I guess.
I guess.
Fortunately, in March of 1982, Don Weber and two other investigators attended an annual training session that our good friend, Mr. John Douglas, was speaking at.
I feel like we should cheer every time we say John Douglas's name, but that's just like, or we should have like a,
I had
like an
this
applause
feeling.
reel.
I had a feeling inside of me that was like, woohoo! But then I was like, no, contain yourself, you crazy person. We don't actually know him. But we do.
No, but
we do. Yeah. We're like
reading the book, I feel like I know him a lot better. So.
Oh yeah. It's very insightful into his life and his mind. I really love it.
It's very interesting.
Yes.
Anyways.
Douglas was providing an overview of personality profiling and crime scene analysis, which was just what the investigation needed. After the presentation, the officers approached the profiler and asked for his assistance. He said he would be happy to help wherever he could. Another Wood River police officer, Rick White, had also attended the training session, and he too thought it would be a great approach to the Brown investigation. After speaking to Weber, White contacted John Douglas to arrange a meeting at Quantico. He wanted to be in the room with Douglas as he analyzed the crime scene photos and observed his reactions. Joining White on the journey was Assistant State Attorney Keith Jensen, Alva Bush, Randy Rushing, and the current Wood River Police Chief Don Greer. Upon meeting in the conference room, the investigators were eager to tell Douglas all about the case and their theories, but he didn't want to hear it. He prefers to analyze the file and the photos without anyone else's opinions before he draws his own conclusions. Douglas did appreciate their enthusiasm, however, as he generally isn't welcomed into investigations with open arms, but this time, the officers were there because they truly wanted to help, and they refused to give up. After looking at the photos for several minutes, Douglas was ready with his profile. He asked the crew, "Are you ready? You might want to record this." Which I just love. I love his confidence.
Me too. I feel like he's such a badass, right? He's just bring it. All right, this is what I know.
But I feel like it's also so effortless. He's just so good at it, and it's just how his brain works. He's like, "Are you ready? This is going to be great. It's going to be exactly what you need. So grab your pens, grab your paper. Let's do this." So this is the information that John Douglas could tell about the crime and the killer. First of all, when bodies end up in water inside the house, whether it's in a bath, shower, or container, the goal is not to wash away evidence like most people may think. It actually indicates that the killer is trying to stage the crime scene to make it look like something it's not, in order to throw off the investigation. which is fascinating because I did not know that. The police had already interviewed the killer. He has been cooperative with police, so he can feel he can keep control of the situation. He was in the neighborhood or immediate vicinity. They would not have traveled far to commit the crime. He would have had to wash the blood off and get rid of his clothing. He knew the victim well enough that he was comfortable in the situation and knew he wouldn't be disturbed. He likely went to the house and offered to help her move. Karla knew him in some way and let him in. He did not have intentions of murder when he went into the house. If it was planned, he would have brought a weapon or a rape kit. Instead, he used manual strangulation and blunt force trauma, demonstrating a spontaneous act of anger or desperation. He had wanted some type of relationship or sex, but when she resisted, he decided the only way to save himself was to kill her. Soon after the strangulation, he panicked and tried to revive her by splashing water on her face. That is why the couch was soaking wet. That didn't work, however, and her face is now all wet. He decided to drag her body across the floor and pushed her head in a barrel of water. This was an attempt to draw attention away from what actually happened and staged the scene as if it was some bizarre, kinky ritual that had taken place. The staging of the body had a second meaning as well. She rejected him, so this was his way of degrading her. To quote John Douglas directly, as in so many other cases, the more an offender does at a scene, even if it's an attempt to throw the police off the scent, the more clues and behavioral evidence he gives you to work with. Which is so fascinating. You think the more complicated the case would be, obviously more complicated, but it's the opposite, so it's pretty neat. Continuing on with the killer's profile, he's in his mid to late 20s, doesn't have experience in killing prior to this attack. He has an explosive, assaultive personality, could have committed lesser crimes in the past. If he's ever been married, he is recently separated or is having marital discord. He is a real loser with a poor self-image. That's Douglas's words directly. I like that.
I loved it. He's a real loser.
He's just a real loser. He may come across as confident, but deep down, he's extremely inadequate. Another zinger.
I love him.
Average intelligence, went no further than high school, has some sort of shop or vocational training. He changed residences and or jobs. Once the heat died down and it would no longer be suspicious, he would likely leave town. May turn to alcohol, drugs, or cigarettes to relieve his tension. May have been drinking before the attack, which would have lowered his inhibition, but he wouldn't have been drunk as he wouldn't have done so much on the scene post-offense. He would have difficulty sleeping, become more and more nocturnal, and he would have problems with his sex life. If he had a regular job, he would be missing a lot of work. He would have changed his appearance. If he had a beard, he would shave it off. If he was clean-shaven, he would grow a beard. He is naturally scruffy and unkempt, though, so any attempt to keep himself orderly would be physically and mentally exhausting, which, same. I also find that
statement.
Yes, I can relate.
So much.
Yes.
You want me to do my hair and my makeup? What?
Right? It's one or the other. I can't do both.
Yeah.
Truly.
No. And if I do, I need like half a day.
Oh, yeah. Right? That is very accurate of how I live my life.
I'm pretty sure the last time I put on makeup was Halloween.
Nice.
Pretty sure.
And that's okay. That's how it should be.
Yeah, it's fine.
His vehicle would be an old and not terribly well maintained red or orange Volkswagen Beetle. Classic.
Yep.
He would be following the police investigation closely and would pass a polygraph test. The anniversary of the killing and Karla's birthday would be huge stressors for him. He had probably visited her grave and may have even sent flowers or asked for her forgiveness. So that was a lot. That was a whole bunch. A lot of information he was able to get from the crime scene photos, which is the best. My favorite.
It's so cool. Just how he can just be like, be that guy who's like, looks at the pictures and he's like, all right, if I was the guy that did this, this is what I'd be like.
Exactly. And he was able to do that in only a few minutes. It's not like he spent like a whole day like analyzing and writing down his thoughts. No. He was just like, okay, this is how it is. This is what happened. And he just rattles it off. It's insane.
So cool.
After taking in all of this information, now the investigators need to make a plan for moving forward. Douglas advised that since the killer will be watching the investigation, they need to announce a new and promising lead, something that will show that the case is once again a top priority, and they are making great progress. They are also to mention that they brought in an FBI profiler onto the case, and what he's telling them fits perfectly with the new evidence they have developed. The officers then mentioned that they had been advised by a forensic odontologist, Dr. Levine, that they should exhume the body. As he, as he said, a casket is cold storage for evidence, which I guess is true.
It's like the creepiest statement ever, but yeah, cool.
It's a little morbid. That's okay. This would give him a better chance to make a definite match to the bite marks. Douglas agreed that this was exactly what they needed at this point in the investigation. He advised Weber to go on TV beforehand to announce that if the body is in good shape and the new exam turns up the evidence that they expect, they will be close to solving the murder. This public spectacle they were creating would be a huge stressor for the killer. He will be concerned and will want every detail. He may even call police directly to ask questions. They also need surveillance on the cemetery and photograph or video everyone that shows up. Once it is announced that the body is still in good condition, it will send the killer further over the edge. His behavior will change and he will further isolate himself. While all of this stress is building, the police should make a statement in the paper that is empathetic to the killer, saying that they know what he's been going through. He did not intend to kill Karla, and that he's been carrying a huge weight on his shoulders for years. Douglas also helped in outlining an interrogation technique. Once the unsub is identified, he should be left to stew for a week so that he will be more likely to confess before being arrested. They need to use the facts about the crime to their advantage when interviewing him, such as, "We know you carried her from here to here," or "We know about the water." The investigators were very pleased with the help and information that they received from John Douglas. From the profile, they had determined that 2 of their initial interviewees still looked like strong suspects. I did it again! Pain Main! Dear Lord.
I think you should just call him that.
Pain Main, that's his name.
Main. Yeah.
Paul Main and John Pranty. They had both been next door the day of the murder. At least John had been drinking beer that day, and their stories never quite lined up with each other's, which could have been a result from the drinking or the low intelligence, or one or both of them were lying. John had done better on the polygraph, but they both fit the profile. Pranty a little better than Main. He had been very cooperative, and once the heat had died down, he had left town, just like Douglas predicted. As the investigation went forward on these 2 men, the exhumation of the body went underway on June 1st, 1982. Dr. Levine had been on the scene, and it received a lot of coverage from the press. Fortunately, Karla's body was very well preserved. A new autopsy was performed by Dr. Mary Case. Unlike the first autopsy, Dr. Case found that the cause of death was actually drowning, not strangulation. Of course, the victim had been strangled, but she was still breathing to a minimal degree when her head was put into the water. This was determined as Karla had foam around her mouth when she was discovered. Dr. Case also found more damage to the skull than the original examiner did. Rather than just palpating the skull, she opened the cranial cavity and found further bruising to the scalp and found another skull fracture. Most importantly, during the autopsy, they were able to get the bite mark evidence that they needed.
Like, who did that first autopsy and how did they miss all that shit?
Well, yeah, even the first time I read about the initial autopsy, I found it very strange that they just palpated the skull for fractures. Like, that's not going to work.
Yeah, no. Like,
I mean, if they were very severe, sure, but X-ray the head.
She's not going to move.
That's true. No restraints needed.
No.
Yeah, I thought it was very strange.
And the fact that they missed that she actually drowned, that bothered me when I read it. I was
like, why? Absolutely.
How do you not see that on an
autopsy?
Autopsy?
Yes.
Wow.
We are intelligent people.
I tell you, we tell them this like every episode. I don't think they believe us anymore.
No, I don't think so. Our cover is blown.
Crap.
But yeah, I was like, the first time reading over the case, I was like, oh, well, in a way, I'm glad she didn't drown. I'm glad she was not breathing when her head was put in the barrel. I know. That's, obviously it's not good that she died, but drowning to me is terrifying. But then to find out that she actually still was breathing is awful.
Even though it was just a little bit, like,
Yeah, still, it's still bad. Oh, yeah. And then I have a fun fact in here. In the veterinary industry, we don't use the word autopsy when investigating a death. And Michelle knows more about this than I do, but I'm going to pretend I know things.
You know things.
I know things, but then I talk and then Michelle's listening and then I'm like, oh, she's so much smarter than me. She's going to correct me.
Have you heard us lately? I think we're both on the same level.
Okay, good. As long as it's a level playing field, that's all that matters. We usually use the terms postmortem examination or necropsy. In Latin, post means after and mortem means death. The word necropsy is broken up into two parts. Necro is a prefix for relating to a corpse or a death, and opsy is the suffix meaning medical examination. We use these terms instead because the word autopsy generally implies that the death is suspicious, and usually it involves murder cases, generally.
Yeah.
We don't often do postmortems that are considered suspicious. They are usually done to provide closure when the cause of death was unexpected and the owner would like to know what happened, or they are done when multiple animals are dying in a herd and we need to find out why in order to protect the rest of the herd from, say, an infectious disease or something like that.
Exactly.
I just
right on the money. See, you know things.
I just think postmortem animals, and I was like, oh, we know about that.
And I've helped with a lot of them.
Yeah. I've only helped with a few. So
yeah.
I'm
lucky you.
I know. Yeah. They don't smell great. That's all I'll say.
No.
Mm-mm.
No, but you do. It's a weird thing to say, but you do actually get used to it.
You do. Yeah. It's worse, I think, when it's in progress in a confined space and you walk into it while it's happening rather than being there from start to finish.
Yeah. When I first learned how to, like, my first anatomy class, we did like a dissection of a dog, which was horrifying and made like, this is my second day of college. And I was like, holy crap, what did I get myself into? And like, when we did them, I like had to have Vicks underneath my nose because I couldn't handle the smell. And like, now I was like, oh, whatever.
Yeah. You get through it.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Yeah.
Anyways, back to the story. Around the same time as the second autopsy and all of the recent publicity, a man named Martin went to the Wood River police. He had went to high school with Karla and worked with a woman who claimed that at a party shortly after the murder, a man said he had been at Karla's house on the day that she was killed. Police were able to locate this woman, named Vicky White, and brought her in for an interview. She confirmed the story and added that the man at the party mentioned that when Karla's body was found, she had a bite mark on her shoulder. He also mentioned that he was going to have to leave town, as he would likely be considered a prime suspect. At the time, she didn't think that these details had any importance to the investigation, but they certainly did. No one, including the investigators, had known about the bite marks until 2 years later. Suspicious.
Craziness.
Yeah.
I don't care if you didn't think the evidence was important.
Right.
Or what he said was important. If some dude tells you that he was at the house of the murder victim and he knows details about the body, you go to the cops.
Just do it. Just go.
Even if you're wrong.
Yeah.
What's it going to hurt?
Exactly. They're not going to find out it was you.
No.
This could have been solved years prior.
2 years prior.
Exactly.
Anyways.
When in doubt, go to the police. Report the people.
Go to the police.
So
trust no one.
Trust no one. So true. I don't trust anyone.
Yeah, no, me neither.
Just a few. So who was the man at the party? It was John Prantey.
I could guess that.
You think? Yeah. Am I giving it away a little bit? Interestingly, the host of the party, whose name was Spencer, had also mentioned that Paul Main had given him details about how Karla's body was found that same night. Now, the question was, did Main get the information from Prantey or vice versa? The investigators did not think that Main was bold enough to have done such a crime or smart enough to set up his friend. Spencer also mentioned seeing John Prantey recently in his old red Volkswagen minibus. Not quite a Beetle, but it was pretty close to John Douglas's prediction. And I liked in this part of the book because John Douglas talked about the graduation of Volkswagen Beetles as murderers vehicle into buses because it was like a portable murder station.
Mobile.
Mobile.
Yeah, a murder mobile.
A murder
right?
mobile, exactly. So I don't know, I really enjoyed that. After the murder, Pranti had grown a beard and left town for a while. He had been divorced, was having trouble with women, and was smoking several packs of cigarettes a day. He also showed a lot of interest in Karla Brown's investigation. On June 3rd, Weber secured a court order to obtain dental impressions from John Pranti. If they were not a match, he would be eliminated as a suspect. The following week, Dr. Levine examined 3 different impressions belonging to Paul Main, a second long-standing suspect, and those of John Pranti's. Right away, it was clear that the first 2 were not the same as the bite marks on the victim. But Pranti's teeth were a perfect match. He was arrested.
that.
I know. He was arrested and charged with murder and burglary with intent to commit rape. Paul Main was also arrested, and he was charged with obstructing justice. John Pranti's trial began in June of 1983, 5 years from when the murder had taken place. And I found a lot of information about testimonies from the trial, so I wanted to bring up some of the interesting points here. The aunt of Paul Main testified as she and Paul's sister lived across the street from him and the victim. On the day of the murder, the witness testified that Pranti had gone to Main's house, and the 2 had sat on the front porch until about 11 a.m. Then they both disappeared until almost noon, at which time they resumed sitting on the porch until 3 p.m. Pranti then left in his car, and the witness did not see him for the rest of the day. Pranti's later statements do not line up with the witness's account. When he was arrested at his house, he told officers that he had previously contacted Don Weber and told him he did not want to be considered as a suspect in the ongoing investigation, which, that's how it works. Love that.
Totally, isn't it? Oh, I just don't want to be a suspect, so could you just take me off your list?
Yeah, I just throwing this out there. I don't really want to be a part of this. It's not really good for my look. So
I just want to separate myself from this.
So if you could please delete my number, don't call me. Thank you.
Forget my name. That would be awesome.
Okay, bye.
No, you weirdo.
No. Sorry, dude. He also said that he told Mr. Weber that he had been at Karla Brown's house on the day of the murder. But he wanted to clarify that since speaking to Paul Main afterwards on the phone, he realized that his statement was incorrect and he had not been at the victim's house that day. Okay, sure.
Oh, believable.
Yes, because, his friend reminded him that he was at Karla's house the day prior to the murder, not the actual day of the murder.
Sure.
Right.
Believable.
Very convenient.
Whatever you say.
During the trial, Pranti was asked if he had met the victim at school, in which he stated that he had not and he did not know her. The only time that he had seen her was the day before the murder, when she was in her front yard. At this point, he again stated that he had not been inside Karla Brown's house at all.
Gosh, you guys should see how many times my eyes are rolling over here. It's awesome.
And I'm going to keep going because later on, he changed his story again. He recalled arriving at Paul Main's house on the morning of the murder. The morning of the murder, leaving, and then returning. He had gone to Paul Main's to see if he wanted to put in job applications with him. He figured he sat around with Paul from about 10 to 12 or 1. He left his friend's house when police started showing up because he didn't want to be caught smoking weed and drinking on the front porch. Naturally.
Because weed's the thing that's going to make you disappear, not the murder that you committed in the house next door.
Exactly.
Cool.
Later that night, Paul and him reconnected at a different friend's house. John Pranti recalled, "This stuck in my mind that Paul showed up here, and he was shook to some degree, and he went on to explain more about what was going on over there at Karla's." And at this point, he was told by Paul that Karla was dead.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
He was told by Paul.
Yes, for the first time. He had no idea.
I believe that.
Me too. The next time he had heard about the murder was a few days later at the party in which Vicky and Spencer had attended. He claimed that Spencer was joking and suggesting that he was the one that committed the crime. Pranti went on to say that it was actually Spencer that had brought up the bucket of water and the bite marks. He, of course, didn't know anything about that.
Well, naturally.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't there, remember? He doesn't want to be a suspect.
Right. Such an idiot. I do these like finger like, ooh, invisible, not here. And it's like, you're recording a podcast, you idiot. Nobody can see you.
I can see you and I appreciate the hand gestures. So it's fine.
Thank you.
Because I'm also a hand talker. I'm waving at you.
I'm very much so. And I have to keep my hands busy the entire time I talk. So if we ever did a live show, people would think I'm some sort of crazy because I have to like move my hands or make circles on my hand or like anything. I don't know. My hands just have to move while I talk. And it's very strange.
I get it.
Yeah. Also during the trial, an ex-girlfriend of John Prante's had testified. Susan Lutz had stated that once they were laying in bed and, quote, he kind of whispered in my ear that he killed a woman. Creepy.
Run.
Run away.
Like get out of bed and run.
Go anywhere but there. When she asked if that was true, he said, I can't really talk about it because I'll lose my freedom. When she asked why did he do it, he said he was mad. Susan also stated that he had bitten her on the neck multiple times and she did not like that. She said specifically he had bitten her on the left shoulder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's like his thing.
A thing. Yeah.
Gross. Gross.
I know. During the trial, there was, of course, a lot of debate over the bite mark evidence. The defendant's dentist testified that the spacing in the upper front teeth were quite unique and occurs in less than 1% of the patients that he sees. In the 17 years that he had been practicing, he estimated that he had seen such spacing less than 15 times. Other dentists and orthodontists testified that the photos used were not taken with any scale and therefore could not be used as reference. The photos were also taken at angles, so this too provides inaccurate information. Another indication of distortion in the pictures was that the pathologist was pulling the victim's skin tightly, so this could have increased the size of spaces between the marks. One dentist classified the photographs of the wounds in question as one step above useless for purposes of comparison.
Well, like you said before, there's been lots of like debate over bite mark evidence, but at the time that this happened, Ted Bundy had just recently been convicted on bite mark evidence. So
exactly,
people were a little more prone to believe that this bite mark could be legit, and it wasn't yet a debunked science. So
yes, exactly. It was quite compelling and just put one of the most notorious serial killers ever seen behind bars. So
right. Yeah. And there's a really memorable picture of Ted Bundy, like in his trial, looking at the pictures, the bite mark impressions and the impressions from his teeth. It's just one that like sticks with me for whatever reason. He's just like, God damn it. Like looking at that picture, like, well, shit.
Yes. Yeah. It's really tough. I do think in some cases, I think it can be beneficial if they're quite unique marks, as they're saying this case is. But at the same time, you know, you can get bruised and bruises can spread and change shape and everything like that. So it's pretty difficult to say for sure.
I mean, I feel like if I bit something and was like leaving a bite mark, my impression would be unique because I got hit in the face with the steel gate and my front tooth got pushed backwards. So it doesn't sit in line with my other one. So that's not normal. Right. So
I think a unique impression like that could be used. Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. Not that I'm ever going to bite somebody. My teeth marks are not going to wind up at a crime scene.
I was just going to say that.
Dude, I can't even bite an apple like a normal human because of that injury. So it's fine.
So everybody,
I'll not be biting people.
You're safe. It's okay. We don't have to worry.
Fine. Anyways.
In the end, however, John Prante was found guilty and sentenced to 75 years in prison. Afterwards, a member of Karla's family presented Dawn Weber with a very unique gift. She embroidered a little tapestry for him. The border included the pattern rectangle, space, triangle, which was the same pattern of the bite mark left on Karla's body. The embroidery included Dawn Weber's slogan during the trial, "You can lie through your teeth, but your teeth don't lie." John N. Prante, July 15th, 1983. And I quite like that.
Okay, as a cross stitcher, I love that.
Me
that is
too.
so freaking cool.
I know. I was like, I want that on my wall.
It's weird to want on your wall, friend, but yeah.
But it would go with my office and the theme of my murdery office.
I could stitch it for you if you really want it.
I mean, I'm saying the original one would be what I wanted, not a copy.
Okay.
That would just be strange.
Okay. Yeah, that would be weird.
I mean the original one from the trial would be super cool.
Yeah, probably would cost you a lot though, I think.
Probably, I would think. To this day, John Prantty is still trying to clear his name, even though he had actually been released on parole last December.
I'm sorry, what?
That's right. So if he was sentenced to 75 years and he's already out, you may ask, how does that work? Well, at the time of his sentence, the truth in sentencing law was not in effect, so Prantty was allowed a day off his sentence for every good day he served. I hate that. I hate it so much.
I hate that so much.
How did anybody think that was a good idea?
A good idea?
Like maybe a minute. You could add up the minutes. Sure, I'll go maybe with that. But a day for every good day you have? Oh my God. Not okay.
They haven't spent much time with psychopaths then, because psychopaths and sociopaths can be quite normal and quite good.
Yeah, and they know
until they don't want to be.
Yeah, they know exactly what to say to, make themselves present as normal. And I'm healthy now. I'm all good. Just like Ed Kemper.
You fixed me.
Yeah, being cleared by psychologists as he has dead bodies in his car. And he's like, I'm fixed. I'm doing so great. Haha.
You guys are awesome. You fixed my brain.
Yeah.
Cool.
Doesn't work so well. Associate Judge Neil Schroeder has denied Prantty the chance to file a second post-conviction petition, which Prantty claims would prove his innocence. Prantty and members of the Chicago-based Exoneration Project have claimed the debunked bite mark evidence was used to convict him. Attorney Josh Tepfer said that exoneration could be a great benefit for his client, even if it comes after he is released. Prantty has consistently insisted he is innocent, and he would like to have the public record reflect that. Exoneration could affect his future prospects for such issues as employment. Schroeder wrote that in order to file such a petition, the new findings must provide conclusive evidence that the jury got it wrong. Quote, the new evidence must support total vindication and exoneration, not merely a reasonable doubt of the defendant's innocence, the judge wrote. The new evidence is not conclusive, Schroeder said. The attacks on bite mark evidence are not enough to warrant a successive post-conviction petition because there was other evidence that pointed to Prantty. Schroeder said that there's also evidence jurors paid little attention to the bite mark evidence, even though, at the time, it had attracted national attention. There was also much circumstantial evidence introduced at the trial, including Prantty's self-incriminating statements. So, the question is, not that our opinions really matter, but do you think John Prantty is guilty of murdering Karla Brown?
I thought he was guilty from the first time he was introduced in the book.
Me too.
I was like, oh, that guy did it. And I don't know if it was how John Douglas wrote it, how he was described. I was just like, that guy did it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they were going through the profile, like when Douglas made up the profile for him, I was like, still that guy. Like,
oh, yeah. I certainly think he did it. I think if it happened in today's time, they would have a really hard time presenting that case at a trial because so much of the evidence is circumstantial and the bite mark evidence wouldn't hold up nowadays. But regardless, I do think he's guilty and I think he did it. And I think Paul Main knew more about it than what he was saying as well. And I wish I could have found more information about what his involvement was, but I definitely think there was an aspect to that as well.
I personally feel like Prantty went to Main's house to clean up afterwards.
Definitely. Yeah.
Just timeline of when neighbors had seen them together, when they saw them apart, right? Like he showed up there and he's like, yeah, I gotta use your shower.
I got a problem. Yeah.
Don't ask too many questions.
Yeah.
Just go back to smoking your weed and drinking your beer and I'll meet you on the porch. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. I think that's what happened. My sources were Mindhunter, of course.
Naturally.
Case text, it was a bunch of transcripts from court hearings and everything like that. It was difficult to read, but it was very informative. The telegraph.com and forensic files. I watched a forensic files about this, which
I love
is
forensic files.
I know, it's great. It is in season 4, episode 8, Body of Evidence is what it's called.
Excellent.
And yeah, it was interesting to watch, especially because John Douglas even made an appearance. So it was really interesting to see him actually talk about the case, and he explained the difference between organized and disorganized killers and what the crime scene told about the attacker. So that was awesome. And then we also saw other people like Dr. Case, like the second person to do the autopsy. She talked in there. And so I like that I could see the actual people. But a few things I didn't like so much was how Karla Brown was portrayed. She was presented as a dumb blonde with huge boobs, wearing a basically see-through tube top and short shorts. And she was rude when talking to her neighbor and his friend, who was, of course, John Branty. And by all accounts, from what I've read, she was a very nice girl who was friends with everyone. So the reenactment...
Like the title was literally like, Who Killed the All-American Girl? And that's like not what you picture when you think All-American Girl. That's what you picture when you say stripper.
Yeah, exactly. It was kind of disgusting. The reenactment felt a little bit victim blamey to me, so not a fan. Even if she was dressed provocatively and she was being rude, even though I don't think that's true, in no way it makes her at fault for this brutal attack. 100% of the blame goes to the grosso that did the horrible crime. End of story. So that's all I got to say about that.
She's unpacking and organizing her new house. She could be in her fucking underwear, a pair of slippers, and a t-shirt with no bra.
Exactly.
Why the fuck not?
Because you should be allowed to without, being worried about getting murdered. That's not okay.
And raped by your fucking neighbor's gross friend.
Exactly. So yeah, that's my story. That's what I have to say.
It's interesting. I did want to comment on her being put back in the sweater.
Oh, yeah.
Do you have thoughts on that? Because I feel like he did all this work to like pose her with her head in the barrel, whatever.
Yeah.
And, he obviously raped her, whatever. But then to put her back in like this heavy, like chunky knit sweater that's buttoned all the way up to the top, I found such a strange detail.
I also thought it was a strange detail, and I couldn't quite make the connection until right before we had started recording. And I can't remember where I read this. It might have been, I really wish I remembered where I read this, but the amount of injury there was to kind of the chest and the shoulders and the neck, I was like, he was probably trying to cover all of that up with the sweater. And then he put the socks around the neck as well, because he didn't actually strangle her with the socks. He just tied the socks around her neck. So I think he was trying to cover up all of her bad injuries, and then also putting her head in the barrel of water also did the same. And there were no injuries to her lower half of the body. And I think at that time he was like just done and left. I don't know. That's a little strange, but I think that's a big aspect to it, was covering the wounds.
Yeah. I wondered if it was like, because he knew her from high school, he had that connection with her. And, like people who murder somebody that they know and they care about, that lots of times they'll cover them up.
Yeah.
Right. So I wondered if that was maybe it, or if he was just actually covering up the bites on her shoulder and whatnot. So
right. Yeah. I mean, just the fact that she was naked from the waist down, I feel like that, like he would have covered her more up, because I feel like that's pretty degrading.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Totally.
Hard to say, but it's really interesting.
Yeah. Weird detail. I like don't like to say that I like it, but like it was like one of those details that I was like,
it's fascinating.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Are you ready for some fluff and stuff?
I am so ready for some fluff and stuff.
Excellent. Well, I figured we'd do something a little bit Christmassy, because it will be just about Christmas when this comes out. And that's crazy. God. And I'm not ready.
Oh, I have one present left to buy.
Yeah.
And it's my husband's present from my kids. So that's like a $20 gift, and we'll be good. And by the end of this week, it will be done.
You know what? I haven't even bought a single present, so I don't want to hear it.
And oh man, I've been baking cookies. Like, oh my God, I should not ever bake cookies because I eat way too many of them.
That's the problem.
And I'm making chocolates, and oh my God, again, shouldn't make those because they taste delicious, but I'm having a lot of fun.
That's
But
excellent.
seriously, it's my thing. I listen to us
Mhm.
podcast and I listen to other people podcast and I bake shit. So that's not my new thing.
It sounds so lovely. And whenever I get a snap from you of doing that, I'm like, man, I wish I was doing that instead of what I'm doing right now.
Or I'm like decorating my Christmas tree, and in the background there's like sweet Christmas carols playing, and then it's like, and he hacked her up with a knife through my earbuds. So you know, balance.
I love it. All right. My question today is, what is an unusual Christmas tradition that you have?
Ooh, okay. So my family is super fun, and we started doing this quite a few years ago because both my grandparents were failing, and so life was stressful for my mom and her sisters, and so we decided that once, we did like all the normal like traditional Christmassy things, so Christmas breakfast and opening the presents and stuff. Once Christmas night hit and the younger kids went to bed, we would throw a theme party, which we had some fun theme parties. Like we did Redneck Christmas the one year, and we did 70s Christmas, and like we dress up, we like do the things. We had 80s Christmas, and I like legit brought my NES with old school Duck Hunt and old school Mario, and we had like Mario competitions, and my hair was crimped and it was huge, and we did a murder mystery party.
That sounds so cool.
I got to be the murder victim. It was so much fun. But my advice to anybody is don't do a murder mystery party with your family, because you wind up like having to be like the person who's having an affair with the captain of the boat that you're on, who turns out to be your dad.
What?
And, flirting with the bartender who's played by your brother.
Yeah, I could see how that would be a little strange.
I was like, this is disturbing, but so fun.
Love it.
And so there's talk this year about maybe if we can have Christmas together, like we would all love to have Christmas together, to have a toga party.
Oh, that sounds fun. I love that.
Yeah. And I feel like my husband's going to get togaed. Like instead of pants, he's going to get togaed. And I feel like that's going to happen.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So I'm rooting that we can rooting for the fact that we can have Christmas like we want to have Christmas. And
yeah,
if I'm wrapped up in a sheet, I will take a picture.
I appreciate that. That is so cool. What a fun tradition. Yeah.
And it's kind of like slacked off in the last few years, but we still always wind up doing something fun. Yeah. Christmas night, like just,
yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
It sounds so lame now. I was just going to say, Dad, me and my cousins, we always end up watching Forrest Gump together every single Christmas, and it's not planned, and it's not like this is our tradition, but it happens every single year, and it's just lovely.
I love that.
Yeah.
It's not a Christmas movie. It's just like,
it's not, but it just always
Tom
feels
Hanks
right. Yeah.
Being Forrest.
Yeah, that's right. So we all just gather around in a small bedroom in my grandparents' basement, and we're just like, let's watch some Forrest Gump.
I love it.
Yeah.
Love it. One year our theme was just like chocolate martinis.
Wow. I love that.
That was a good Christmas, I tell you.
I could get on board with that. Yep.
Yeah, there was some headaches in the morning.
Oh, I bet. I bet.
That was one of the nights that I got like, I love you, man, drunk with my cousin's now husband. And my husband was already in bed, and he was like, oh, honey, if I pulled half the shit that you did last night, I would be in trouble forever.
Oh my God. I love that so much.
Yeah, it's good times.
This is why we love Christmas.
I know. I love Christmas. I'm an elf. My husband has accepted it.
Yeah, that's good.
For a long time, though, he had a shirt that had the X-ray of the Grinch's heart when it was all shrunk and little. Like, and he wore that all Christmas. Yeah,
I like that.
Yes.
That's fantastic. Love it.
Yes. So make sure to answer our question, what is an unusual Christmas tradition you have? And let us know what you think about the episode. You can email us at murdermerlot@gmail.com. Find us on Instagram at Murder Merlot Podcast, Facebook at Murder Merlot Podcast, and Twitter at Murder and Merlot 1.
You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, and pretty much anywhere else you can find podcasts. We would love if you subscribed, and if you don't, you're dead to me. And Michelle, we are going to talk about our next book club book, but I don't know if we're going to.
I don't have one yet.
I know.
Okay, so I have been very focused on the Christmas things, as I've already said, and I have not picked a book to follow up Mindhunter, but we will be taking a little break between Christmas and New Year's, and I promise I will pick a book before next week.
Good. Well, keep an eye on our social medias then, because we'll post our next book there. And we also take suggestions, of course, just saying anything you're dying to book club about, let us know.
Yeah.
And I was just going to say our next episode will be our Mindhunter book club episode. Just another reminder. And yeah, that will be our last episode of the year.
That's crazy.
I know. So crazy. You realize this is like episode 37, I believe. So that means we've been doing this for, well, it's been more than 37 weeks because we've missed a couple weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. And I got an email from Tara on Boxing Day last year proposing this.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, I'm on board. Sign me up.
Yep.
So there was much talk about it. And then I think it was, we got 2 episodes in before COVID hit. So.
Yep. In March. Yep. Because we were like, yeah, Murder March, we're going to do it. And then we, recorded a couple episodes and then that was it.
Then the world went to shit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But it's okay because podcasts, they don't require being next to anybody. You can safely social distance and listen to us and spread the word. You don't have to worry about anything. Just saying.
And thank God for technology, even when it glitches like it did today, a whole bunch of times.
Yep.
We can still do this and have so much fun.
Exactly. We love it.
Exactly. All right. Remember to drink wine.
Because it's not good to keep things bottled up. Bye.